So we're done. We're done.
We're done. That's not a good start now.
No.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Wildflowers.
Yes.
Hello.
This is our number
12?
No. Oh yeah, 12. You're right.
I was right.
I was
right. My goodness.
Dear
Yeah, let's read what
diary.
Can you tell we really don't practice this at all?
No,
we don't.
But here we are. It's a crazy week.
It's very, very crazy.
And if you guys hear like groaning, that's
Yes.
my dog. Is that Sherlock? That's Sherlock.
She said it was her dog. We've all heard it here for
The dog that I'm fostering that is warming my heart. Chloe, it's getting a little rough to even think of him not being
He's
there.
so cute.
I know, but let's see what happens tomorrow at the adoption event.
Yes, I'll be at
You might be the
Westbury.
perfect person there.
I'm going to have to come just to run interference.
You probably will. You probably will. But you know, Peggy and I, we have on the road book events, and just this morning we had an event at East Meadow Library, and there was about 40 people there.
Yeah, about that.
Right?
Yeah.
And,
that's a good size.
and it was
Yeah.
with author Leanne Dolan,
Okay.
and she wrote the book
Lost and Found in Paris. And she has other books too.
Right.
Helen of Pasadena.
Right.
And she kind of bases her titles on their contemporary, but on history.
Right.
And I forgot the first one. Elizabeth the Second.
Something like that. But she also has a podcast
Oh, okay.
that she did with through ABC News or ABC whatever. And then now that was a program that was NPR. But now they have it's called Satellite Sisters, and so she was talking about the podcast. But yeah, so Peggy and I sold her books, and we had a nice time.
Yeah, we did. It was
she
very
very
nice.
nice? Was she a nice person?
She was
Very
nice.
interesting too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting,
Yeah.
very good speaker.
Yeah.
She was funny, like she really kept your attention, you know.
And the library is beautiful, and the person who runs the events, she was very entertaining, and she made me laugh, and so. But we also about a week ago, we hosted Nelson DeMille at Malloy University, and I got to interview him.
That was
And
great.
yeah, that was a fun one.
That was a
and
great event.
yeah,
A lot of people and
about
we
200
sold a lot of
people.
books.
So it's on the road book events that we're doing. So
That was such a big event. I didn't get to go to that one, but
I
I
know.
did see after, and you know, he's a big draw. Even when we used to host him in Borders years ago, I mean, people would line up, you know,
Yeah.
so ahead of time just to meet. I'm glad to see that he still has such a
Yeah.
strong following.
he enjoyed himself, and he wants to do his next book with us again.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
that'll be fun. And but this coming Monday is Halloween.
Yes.
So I want to know.
I'm so tired.
You want to know what?
I want to know what are you doing for Halloween, if anything?
I'm going trick-or-treating.
As what are you going as?
I'm gonna go as a
Really?
kid. A kid who's trick-or-treating.
How about you, Judy? What's going on with
Well, I'm having I have my girls and their friends are coming over. It's a school day, so they have to go to
Right.
school,
Yeah.
and their friends are coming over after school. You know, we're gonna
Right.
just have, you know, dinner there, snacks, whatever. One thing I learned though is, I don't know about your neighborhood, but in my neighborhood, the first year I moved in there, I tried to order pizza for my girls and their friends,
Uh-huh.
and you couldn't get any of the local pizza places
Oh.
they're backed up, and so now I've seen over the years, order your pizza in advance. But I'm not doing that, so I just filled up the freezer with DiGiorno's,
Oh,
and
okay.
and like, you know, so this way we have the pizzas covered.
Right,
We're doing
yeah.
you know, just, and then they go out trick or treating, and,
Yeah.
and we just have a little party at our house.
When my kids were little, and we used to go trick-or-treating first, and then my kids and the neighbors' kids, I used to make during the day when they were in school a big pot of chicken fricassee, because it's, you know, it's usually
Yeah.
chili and they used to come over and have dinner with us, and it was fun.
Well, you two lived you grew up in Brooklyn?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you lived on Long Island, so you had a lot of places
You
to
said
go.
Long Island.
Long Island. Yeah, I did. Well, it's affecting me. And our audience member, we do have an audience member. Did you go trick or treating?
Every year.
Every year. Well, when I was a kid, where I grew up, we went down to my grandmother's house, pretty much wearing the same mask, and she always went, "Who is it?" And we got a Hershey bar, and that was
Oh, that's
it.
cool.
But when I moved to Long Island, and I was taking care of some kids, and they were going to go out trick or treating, and they were taking a pillowcase, I'm like, why? Had no clue
Yeah.
how much candy.
But you can get a lot of trick or treaters here now? Because I'm.
Last year we got more than we had in the last couple of years, so
Okay.
you know. But
No. I live on a busy road. So
You do,
on
yeah.
Berry Hill Road, so on the side streets you'll see all the kids going up and down, but they're not trick or treating on the road that I live on.
too
Last
dangerous.
year, not really. I don't know why they don't. But last year I was actually standing at the front door, and when I see somebody, come here, like the crazy lady.
Come to
Oh, don't go to that house.
I
I have candy.
You gave out the raisins.
I used to hate when I was a kid, you went to the house because sometimes you would get an apple.
Oh,
And I said,
remember that,
oh,
yes.
I don't want an apple. Or sometimes if they were nice, they would slot a nickel into
Yes.
it.
A
And then-
coin or something
yeah,
sort of, like
yeah.
a quarter.
well, they stopped doing that when they started putting razor blades.
Yeah.
Because I remember there was
Yeah.
people that had
Yeah.
that with their, but yeah. So, what's your favorite candy?
Oh gosh. I'm boring. I love Tootsie Rolls.
Oh,
I-
interesting.
I love the Tootsie Rolls.
I
all
like
the
Tootsie
time.
Rolls, but
Yeah.
it's not my favorite.
No, that's my favorite thing to get in the loop.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
No, I go for the peanut butter cups.
Those are good.
They're good.
Yeah,
but
I like peanut butter cups.
I like Almond Joys.
I like Almond Joys.
those are good. I like
Yeah.
most of
Me
the
too.
candies.
I like Mounds.
It's gotta be
Yeah.
I
chocolate.
like Kit Kats.
You know what
Yes.
I don't like are the Skittles. I can't
Yeah,
I
stand
don't
them.
like Skittles.
Well,
Wow,
Mac.
no. They
as I said, we have dogs.
Savannah got really
The
upset with the
audience is
Skittle.
very.
Yeah. Good job, Savannah. Hey, we told you, this is all just very authentic. Here we are. That's
Yeah, we have 4 dogs here.
Right.
So.
Yes.
Yes. Well,
Oh, well.
Judy, it's your turn to do the wine.
Oh, yes, okay. So, this is something I wanted to try. I really wanted to try it more on a flight situation, but it just they didn't have really a good selection where I was.
Okay.
This is a port we're going to try today.
Oh, I never tried a porter.
You never
I
did?
remember we talked about it, and
Yes.
I said that because they're usually sweet. They're
Yes.
dessert wines.
Oh, I need another glass for our audience members
Yes,
too.
we do.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll go get a small
All right.
glass.
So I wasn't sure we were having an audience member.
Yes.
But what I brought here is Taylor Fladgate. It's a 10-year-old tawny port. Now, when I first was introduced to port,
Okay.
it was in like a flight situation. You know, flights where they give you different types. Oh, all right. Here you go. Audience member, you're going to have a nice big glass. So the way you open it up, it's kind of like a cork, but it twists open like a little.
Okay.
And when I first was introduced to port, it was in a flight, and it was with Taylor Fladgate, and they had different ages. So it was like a 10-year-old, a 20-year-ld, and a 30-year-old port. And you're supposed to taste, each one to see what you
Yeah.
like.
Do you prefer the green?
Yeah, I gave Peggy the green.
Green. Yeah, I have.
Even though it's my favorite color, I'm just generous.
Well,
like that.
thank you, Judy. It's very, very generous of you. I'll deliver that to you, Anya.
There you go.
We don't want the audience to see that you have on skeleton pajamas.
Oh, I think they need to see that. Actually, I think that would be rather amusing.
So port, for those is may not know, it is more like a dessert wine. It is kind of sweet. You don't want to like gulp it down like you usually do, Carol. And you want to you just kind of want to sip it and enjoy it. And
You're gonna get it.
this, I think this is a good one. I find the older ones are better. So like my favorite one is really the 30-year-old. But they didn't. I was gonna buy they didn't have it.
And
there.
what's the
Okay.
price point?
Uh
Uh-oh.
yeah. I don't.
Just make something up, we don't know.
I don't know. I don't know.
It
I
was
wanna make some-
$15.99.
Maybe, because I did buy it with a whole bunch of wine. So I just
Oh,
grabbed
she
it.
talked about
And they
me.
didn't have it, so, but, the 30-year-old, I know is a lot more. It's maybe like a $40 bottle. So I'm thinking
Oh.
maybe this is probably like.
Well, that
20 or
isn't
15.
something that you drink a whole bottle.
No, you don't drink it all
yeah.
in one sitting. No.
Yeah.
All right, so
Well,
let me see what you
I'm
think.
scared.
Okay, but wait, what are we going to toast to?
Toast to a less busy week, because I'm about to
It's
collapse.
had a crazy week.
It's really busy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see, anybody's birthdays.
What's the date?
Oh.
Oh, no, happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Well, and also, happy anniversary, because you had an anniversary.
I did, but we toasted the last time.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, but my sister-in-law Nessa's birthday is coming up in about a week, the 9th. So in case
Okay.
we don't do it
Okay.
before then, here we are.
Happy
Cheers.
Halloween.
Cheers.
More booze, please.
We heard
That's
that
right.
from an audience member. Now, you know I don't like sweet wine,
Me
so.
neither. Judy's making a horrible face. I'm
No,
scared.
I like it.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
I'm scared.
The smell is kind of strange. I like it.
Woo. Okay.
wow.
All right.
You
It's
need a
just
few-
the
you need a
initial
few
on the
sips.
front of
Yes.
your tongue. It's like, whoa,
Yeah.
like alcohol. But
It's
then
very
it's okay.
sweet. What do you think, audience member?
It's an acquired taste.
It is.
It's smoky.
It is smoky.
It is.
Yeah.
So picture yourself like in
I wouldn't say
in
it's
a
bad.
in a dark,
Cabin.
restaurant.
You're in a cabin with a fireplace.
Well, it has to
and
be a
there's
fireplace.
snowing outside.
Yes.
And then I would go and
You
get
just
a
had a
bottle of
nice-
wine that I like.
No, you just had a nice big meal.
Yeah.
You don't want anything
Yeah.
too heavy, so you're just
No.
gonna sip your
Chianti.
port. No.
No, it's
So
not bad.
unimaginative. Yeah,
It's
try
really,
it.
yeah.
I'm not so sure.
Well, you're gonna have to drink it
Yeah.
because we have nothing else here.
Water. No. This is my third sip. Let's see how this goes down.
What is the alcohol by volume on this?
Oh.
Because I don't want to
Get drunk.
I don't have that good of glasses
Oh,
on.
here, I could-
Yeah. You take a look.
anything.
Smells like
It's a really, I would
say.
Smells like a 30%.
it has a really strong smell. Wait, you should try the 30-year-old though. Oh my gosh.
What would be the difference then?
It's smokier, it's just a more rich flavor. Now I've had newer ports in the 10-year-old and they're not my favorite. They're too sweet, for
Okay,
me, so
too
I don't
sweet.
care for them.
Oh, it's all the way over here. 20%. 30%?
Yes,
What does that
please.
say?
Somewhere
I
between
think
20
it
and
says
30%.
20%.
I think you should have read it before you drank.
20%.
20, that's high.
Yeah.
Most wines like
Go
are
big or go home,
11
baby.
or 12%. That's why I asked, because I said, this tastes like I'm drinking
Yeah.
a shot of something.
It's just like,
Yes.
sometimes people have Sambuca at the end of
Yeah, mm-hmm.
That's what this is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is your
Do you have a
Sambuca.
bottle of wine to open?
Oh, you have to ask. No, you know what, Judy? I really appreciate that you're introducing something a little different. I
Trying
No,
to
I'm
inject
glad
some
that I
culture.
got. I don't not like it.
Okay.
I
good.
really don't.
I don't
I'm
like
pleasantly. I'm pleasantly surprised that I like that.
I mean, I'll
Almost like
see
a
that.
smoky, fruity taste
It's
to it.
smoky.
Yeah, I really.
I'm trying to figure out it is.
What?
The smell is kind of medicinal.
I feel like it's almost like a shot. Like you would have to. But that's how.
It's not cheap.
Well, it's
it's not
because of the
cheap like a
alcohol
shot.
content.
No.
Mhm.
I mean, if you did
I
that
think
whole
it's
shot,
meant to sit.
Oh, I would watch
she'd be on this table.
dancing.
It's meant to
Do it.
sip and then linger.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's lingering.
So you do, and then you have a conversation. You stare into the eyes of your date. You're like, oh yeah.
Sherlock.
Okay.
That's my Foster. Anyway, that's pretty cool. Thank you, Judy.
You are welcome.
So the name again.
Is Taylor Fladgate, this is a 10-year-old tawny port. It's very well known, the Taylor flag apron. Pretty much
Yeah.
any wine store will have it.
Okay.
I was
Remind
hoping
me.
they had like at least a 20, but they had a 10-year-old one.
Yeah.
Well, that's my dog.
That's Lacey.
Are we okay over there?
She didn't
don't
like
let
the
me
port
forget-
either.
Really, don't let me forget to take a picture of that too.
Oh, yes,
So
thank you.
there, that's okay.
All right.
All right, so we did the booze, now we're moving on to the books.
I'm still.
Who's doing the, oh, you're doing the book.
Yes.
She's. You notice how she
Okay.
threw books in there.
Yes,
I know, really.
yes,
Yeah,
I did.
Yeah.
Only because this is a little special with the maze, with Nelson DeMille's
You
book
know,
that we're
if
doing.
you or I try to sneak in another
Yeah, I
book,
know,
she'd
really.
yell at us.
Yeah, that we make the podcast
Too long. Yeah. You can
You
only
know.
choose one.
Do you want to tell the publisher not to share this? So anyway, I just finished this book called Funeral Train. It's a Dust Bowl mystery, and it's by Lori Lowenstein. And this is the second one, I believe, in the Dust Bowl series.
What is it?
Does it
Dust Bowl
take place
mystery?
in the 30s
Yes.
during the
Yes.
migration? Oh.
Yes.
Is that a certain is that her series? Dust
Yes,
Bowl? Oh, okay.
yes,
got
it's
it.
her series.
Oh.
And she does a really good job with the time period. Like you feel like you're in that time period. I did not read the first one, so there's a lot of characters. There's a lot of threads in the story that I was like, okay, is there a need to know that for this book? But I guess if you're reading the series, then these are characters from the previous book that
Oh,
they would
okay. Yeah.
they would know. But it's a mystery, as it says, and so you keep wondering, okay, who was responsible? And there's two mysteries going on at the same time.
That's fine.
There was a train wreck, and was someone responsible for the train wreck? And then there was a murder right after, like the next night, there was a murder. So are they connected? Are they not? So it's called Funeral Train. It came out October 4th, I think it was. So it just came out. So give it a shot.
Who's the
See-
publisher?
The publisher it's Kaylee Jones Books, but she's an imprint of Akashic Press.
Okay.
So she does a lot of these books. So yeah, but
So this is classified as historical fiction or a mystery? Or
both.
mysteries?
I would say historical fiction.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. So, if either of you want to borrow it, it's for the taking.
Would it say on the page what it would be?
No, not really. It might
On the front.
sometimes.
It might be like on the book description. It could
Yeah.
be.
In an iPage, we can look at it
Yeah.
on iPage though. But
So anyway, Nelson DeMille, like I said, I got to interview him for the event we did, and he actually autographed a book. What does it say?
Historical fiction.
So, yeah. So as you can see,
Carol.
no, it's not personalized. Although I did get it personalized, and he told me I did a really good job interviewing him. Anyway, so this is autographed, and so we did put it out there for over a week, telling people to share our podcast, and if you did, let us know, and then we would put your name in for a drawing. We don't have an awful lot that did that. We're going to do this again with other books in the future,
Yes.
because we got to get this going. We want you folks to start reading and letting us know what you're thinking of these books.
So this is the copy we're raffling off.
Yes, the copy, yes.
All right.
So, we'll take all these entries.
pick me.
Nope, not, your name's not in there. Okay,
I'm
so
kidding.
who wants to,
let Peggy do it?
Peggy? Let's see who it is.
Santa Claus. It's Lisa.
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 We love Lisa.
She always makes comments, so Lisa, when I see you, you'll be
Yeah.
getting it. I'll get it to you.
Lisa likes audiobooks though.
Well, she's gonna have to deal
Well, she'll
with
like an autographed copy.
Yes,
Especially if Nelson
absolutely.
DeMille, who is always a big.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. It's kind of nice to have. So,
So tell us about the book.
The Maze. It's so funny because may I see it again? Because I really like the very first sentence of this book, and I laughed out loud, and I was like, okay, I'm in for a wild ride with this. And the character is a John Corey character, and this is the
Okay.
8th book that he's done about John Corey. So, this is the very first sentence. You can't drink all day unless you start in the morning.
That is good advice.
and I was like, oh my God, this is so funny. And then there are so many times I'd be reading something and I'd be like, I have to tell somebody, this is so
Yeah.
funny. So it's very character driven with John Corey, and it takes place. It was inspired by the Gilgo murders on Gilgo Beach.
Oh, yeah.
So and they don't know who's responsible, and a lot of
Yeah,
people that were
that's
at the event kept thinking they wanted Nelson to have an answer who it did.
Yeah,
who did,
I know.
who
I know.
did it, you know, and
Did he offer anything?
No.
No, I didn't know if he, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there were some suspects that were really interesting, but he had to be really careful and very
Yeah.
cautious about what he was saying, because, you know, he's good friends with a lot of people, both in politics and in the force,
Yeah.
and the police force and that kind of thing. So,
Did he have access to any of the
yes,
police records?
he did. He had access, he had contacts, and the research he did, he found it very interesting, and it did help add to the story. The end, I'm not going to say about the ending, but
Yeah, don't.
yeah. And they all lived happily ever after.
Oh, gosh.
No, no, he definitely, he talked about, I asked him about his writing journey and how he started, and it's just amazing just how, you know, he's a war veteran, so he was talking about that too. So all of that in his life plays into all his books. So it's called The Maze, and it just recently came out. It's only been 2 weeks, I think, that it's been out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I highly recommend it. You read the Plum Island,
Yeah, I read Plum Island and Nightfall.
right? And did you read any of his other?
Plum Island, I
Plum-
read, yeah.
Okay, I read,
Yeah.
I read Cuban Affair, and then my favorite is, why can't I think of it?
Gold Coast?
Thank you, Gold Coast. I knew you'd remember for me. Thank you. And yeah, I really enjoy his writing. So
Yeah.
yeah, so congratulations, Lisa.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good. So I guess we're gonna pause for a second.
Oh, I just wanted to remind
Oh.
everybody of something.
Yes.
That if you live in New York, today was the first day of early voting. So you could do it between today and November 6th. And then
Awesome.
November 8th is the general election day.
Please
So,
vote.
Yes, please do.
Please. It's
Okay.
sweet before it's taken away. So
Yes.
very good.
Please do.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Yeah, I guess we'll let that play out.
Okay.
We are back. We are. You know, real quick,
Yes.
why don't you flip that around so that we can see ourselves?
Oh,
Uh,
so you got a direction too.
I-
Very,
I-
very,
these
very
directions,
bossy
there's so
today.
Many things to
Now
do.
let me make sure it's still good.
Why don't you read that to them?
I will.
I'm giving you
I will.
direction.
We all gave each other directions now. So Peggy saw this in the store, and it's called what's the store called? It was paper.
It's a paper. It's a Hallmark paper
store,
store.
Yeah.
So no one will ever be as entertained by us as us.
True.
And we always say that.
We do.
We always say we think that we're very amusing.
yeah. So
No.
yeah. Well, talk about amusing. Family secrets.
Yes,
Dun,
that's
dun,
our
dun.
discussion today is going to be about family secrets. And my family has lots of them.
And I gotta be very honest, I have no family secrets to share that are mine to share, but even stuff I was like, do I have family secrets? Well, I kinda
Yeah.
do, but.
Judy.
You know, you make me drink a little bit more of this, and I will
Okay.
spill all. No, it's I think in any family, I know I have a very large extended family.
Mhm.
You know, you have a very large nuclear family. You
Yeah.
know, and there's always going to be lots of secrets. I don't want to
Yeah.
jump in on there, but
Yeah.
I'm putting it out there just as a caveat. I'm
Yeah.
only going to talk of the dead. So
Oh, okay.
all of you
Okay.
living are safe for now.
Yeah. Well, we found out some family secrets in the 90s. I think it was about 1995, 94, 95, something like that. When my dad had died in 1984. And about 10 years later, my sister Maureen and I decided, let's, find out about this Malone family. We were raised in a household where my dad always said, oh, you're 100% Irish. You have the map of Ireland all over your face. You're as Irish as Paddy's pig. He told us the counties that we were from in Ireland. And
Never heard that.
So we started saying, okay, well, where are all these people that we're related to? You know? So it could be a very long story, so I'm going to make this part of the story a little shorter because it led us to do another family tree on the other side of the family. So we started investigating, and we didn't know our cousins on that side because my father's family was very fractured. He had 3 brothers, and they didn't really talk to each other. He talked to his younger brother once in a while, but they were all busy professional men who had families, and they lived all over the country. One was in California, one of them was in Georgia, one of them was in Pennsylvania,
Wow, that's
and my
great.
dad, you know, we were in Brooklyn. So I'm one of 10 children too. So my dad was a pretty busy guy, along with my mom.
I'm gonna say,
Gonna say.
So we knew a cousin, my father's cousin, in the little town where my dad was raised, Mahanoy City, Pennsylvania. And so my sister Maureen got in touch with him. We hadn't spoken to him in years and years. We really knew him when we were little, and he's much older than us. And she started asking him questions. And then she asked about our cousins. You know, we knew that we had some cousins from my Uncle John. And he told us, oh, they're on AOL. Remember AOL? I'm talking
my God.
90s.
Yeah.
And he put us in touch with them. And we got in touch with my cousin Trisha, and who ended up being such a lovely person. And we used to go into chat rooms on AOL.
Oh gosh, chat rooms.
And you know,
I forgot about those.
I know.
Wow.
I know, and you used to be able to print out the chats, and I wish to
know.
God I still had them. There was so much information in them.
oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
So anyway, in talking with my cousin Trisha and her sister Jackie then jumped in, and we used to, you know, compare family stories, and we didn't know each other. We had never met each other.
Right.
It turns out, after months of investigating, they knew about the family secret. Their father was the only one that told their kids about this secret that my maiden name is Malone, but my maiden name should have been Malinowski.
Wow.
That I called, what spurred it on was I called my Uncle Jerry one night in Pennsylvania, and I was chatting with him, and I said, I just want to ask you, what was Pop's mother's name? So he said, Antoinette Stabinsky. So I said, what? I said, I didn't know that Pop had a Polish mother. And he shut me down. He said, Peggy, just leave well enough alone and don't even start digging into all of this. So, of course, that just made us like crazy.
Yeah.
And then we found out that there was a name change. My dad was born Joseph Malinowski. When he was, I think he was like in his early teens, my grandmother made my grandfather change his name to Malone because she was Irish and she didn't want a Polish name.
Wow.
She also made him cut all ties with his family. He was very close with, it was really his uncle, but they were the same age. He was a couple of years older than my
This
dad.
is your grandmother?
This is,
Or
my grandmother was the Irish one. She made
she made
my grandfather, Pop, change his name and cut all ties with his Polish
sounds, you know.
family.
Yeah.
Well, we did get in touch with Cecilia Malinowski. My sister had the nerve to call her up and say, hey, we didn't know anything about this. We didn't even know that you existed.
Wow.
And, you know, Maureen asked her, why do you think, Nana did that? She said, because your grandmother was a bitch.
I was going to say, I was this close to say that. I don't want to offend you, but she sounded like
To us, she wasn't, but she wasn't very nice to Pop, though. She was always yelling at him. So anyway, I mean, there's so much more to that story, but that led us, we had to tell my mom about it. And my mom said, I had no idea. And now my dad is dead for around 10 years. My mom's feelings were hurt, and then she got mad at my dad. Why didn't he ever tell me this?
Yeah.
Right.
And she said that he always used to say that I have something to tell you. I'm going to tell you someday.
And then it
So my mom, after we told her about it, she said to us, don't you go digging into my family now.
didn't. No, she did.
She did, so guess what? We said, Maureen and I were on the phone and said, hey, what's going on in the Irwin side of the family? So, and that led us to find out.
She's not a Malinowski, is she?
No. That my mom, when my mom was 5 years old, her mom, my grandma, told her and her sister Ruth that their father died. So my mom thought that he was dead for years. And then when she was, I guess she was a teenager, her mid-teens, she mentioned something to another friend of the family, a young girl, I guess they lived in the same neighborhood. I don't know exactly who it was. But she mentioned to this girl about her dad being dead. And this girl said, your dad's not dead. He's in jail. So my mom was shocked.
Just as good as Dad.
So my mom never told us any of this story. After we were doing the whole Malinowski thing, she confided in my sister Eileen.
Wow.
And she said, please don't tell anybody, because my mom was ashamed of her family history.
That's
You know,
it's not her
So
fault.
Eileen did tell us, but she said, please don't let mom know that, she really doesn't want anybody to know. So we started, and we're still working on it. It's very hard. Everybody's dead in that family. So it's hard to get information,
Or
but on
in jail.
yeah. Only 2 of them were in jail. Only 2 of them were in jail. Well, this is my grandfather. This, I believe, this is the prison. He was in Dannemora State Prison for like 20-something years.
Which is not far from where I grew up.
It's up in Clinton, New York, upstate.
Clinton County.
This we got from the archives in Clinton Prison. They sent me some information on him a few years ago. I requested it.
What was
This-
he in prison for?
He was in, I'll tell you in a minute.
Oh.
But this we believe, you see he has on a tie and
Yes.
a jacket, and it's on prison paper. We believe this was his release mugshot.
Oh.
Because when he went
okay.
into prison, he was 27 years old. But the
Yeah,
story-
He doesn't look like a 27-year-old.
Yeah, no, he was,
Well,
in his 50s then.
When he got out.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
So he must have done something serious.
Well, you know what? He was poor. So that's, his first crime. So the story that we found out, Jacqueline and I, my niece
How
Jacqueline,
Jacqueline.
we went into Manhattan to the archives building, the records building, and we found out that when he was 8 years old, it was in 1903, his mother died. There were 5 or 6 kids. Some records say 5, some say
Yeah.
6, maybe one died, who knows. And she died of appendicitis.
Oh,
So she has sepsis. So it seemed to me from what we were reading that she got sick. They were poor. He was a janitor of a building. The father.
Oh,
Yeah, no, the father. His father was the janitor of the building. They lived in the basement.
right.
And I guess maybe they couldn't go to the hospital, or they said, oh, you'll be all right.
Right,
They
they
had a
probably-
bunch of kids, and
Who's gonna watch
you
the
know,
kids?
so she
Yeah.
she died, and on the death certificate it does say appendicitis,
That's sad.
infection, sepsis. So a few months later, in October 19th, 1903, his father, Isaac, stuck a gas pipe in his mouth with his kids in the basement with him, and it was illuminating gas because there wasn't electricity then. They had like kerosene lanterns and the
right.
gas lanterns.
Right.
And his older brother, who he was very attached to, he smelled gas, and everybody was sleeping. And he went and got their aunt, who also evidently lived there, and they found him dead, Isaac, on the floor. They called the ambulance, the doctor came, they couldn't revive him, but they were able to revive the children. So everybody was okay. The 5 kids ended up being okay.
Usually you have to go into a chamber when you have that. I wonder.
Well, this was in 1903, who the hell knows, but they were all, they were all okay,
Wow.
they got them out,
Thank
and they
God.
all
Wow.
recovered from it. From that time on, he and his brother Frank seemed to be the ones who got into the trouble. They were in and out of orphanages. They were in the custody of the state. and then they'd be put in the Catholic Protectorate. So that was probably like, you ever see Annie? You know, it's and it was run by nuns and brothers, so. And the records, because we did get records about, they were in and out of them, then they'd run away. Frank set fire to one of the homes. St. Agatha's home, he set fire and then he ran away. So all through there, and they were little kids. They were 8 years old, 12 years old. All these records of this horrible life that they had. And the other siblings were girls. Well, one of them was a boy. He was the youngest, I think, William. And then the other two, there was Mimi and Agnes. And they lived with an aunt, and I guess they were not trouble. Because they turned out all right. I actually knew my Aunt Mimi briefly before she died. But he and Frank just lived a life of crime and stealing cars. And then their big crime, he got, let's see, I'm going to show you this here. This is one of the things from Clinton. Here, the warden's record card. So this was in October of 27. Robbery, first degree. Grand larceny, first degree. Assault, second degree, as a second offense. And then what he did after he was convicted of that, I guess he must have gotten paroled. First he went to Sing Sing, and then they said that they had to send him to Dannemora. They hijacked a man's car at one night. They stopped him, they took his car, they robbed him of $12, threw him out of the car. That was this one.
Right.
Wow.
Then they, after they did this is the first part of their offense. They hijacked a truck that had, it was a sugar truck, and it was during Prohibition. So they could probably sell that sugar for a lot of money because people were making the alcohol with it and fermenting it. And they had a gun. Frank had a gun. They didn't shoot anybody with the gun, but they put a gun to somebody's head, the driver of the truck.
Wow.
And they got caught. And they went to trial, and they'd been in and out of courtrooms and jails. Like they go to jail, they were very young, first offense, all right, we'll let you out, go to jail. And Frank had like 4 offenses against him by the time they robbed that truck. So then we started looking in, I have a subscription to newspapers.com.
So do I.
It's so interesting, so I put in his name. And there's many more articles about him and his brother Frank, the Irwin boys, they called them.
Wow.
And the articles, they became well known. But the one that, this is the article about,
Our alarm is going to go off.
oh.
I don't know, I just heard it, maybe Jason and
It's the Irwin brothers.
Yeah, the Irwin
gosh.
boys.
Yeah,
This
really.
is the article I found about when Isaac, my great-grandfather, killed himself.
Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah, I know, very sad.
Suicide suffocates family. The gas janitor Irwin turned into his mouth also overcame his 4 sleeping children.
Yeah.
Wow. I know that you had so much going on.
Yeah.
And you might have told me this, but it's just like
He was only
it's a book.
he was only 41.
I know.
And this is your mom's side of the family.
Yeah, this is my mom's.
And this was 4 months after his wife died.
Yeah.
Those poor children.
I know. I
It's
know.
like a Netflix series.
I know, really.
Right?
That's what I always tell you. You gotta write this book for me.
I mean, it
Pierogies in
Almost-
prison.
Yeah, it's
it's
really
almost
sad.
written itself. I mean,
Yeah.
really.
It's amazing.
I know.
I don't know if you know, but with the newspaper.com, how much, and the Ancestry, how much, Ancestry.com, sorry, I should have finished that word, you can uncover nowadays.
Oh my
because,
gosh, I
and
know.
it's so helpful.
Yeah, we have draft registration cards. Even
Yeah.
when he was in Dannemora, right before World War II, they made him register for the draft. I don't know why he got sentenced to natural life in prison for this.
Oh, wow.
You know,
wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he was there for a long time. He did get paroled. I think he was paroled in 1948. I think they did let him out on his release paper. Unfortunately, I gave all of my paperwork to my sister a couple of days before. I said, oh my God, I'm doing
Aw.
this thing. But they put on it paroled on the date in 1958. And I said, what? And it said by death. Because he must have been on parole when they released him. He was still on parole 10 years later in 1958. Probably for the rest of his life he was paroled.
Yeah.
You know, probation, not paroled,
No, well,
right?
Oh,
He was
okay,
paroled
probation.
and put on probation.
yeah.
And then he got off, and then they put by death in 1958 because he had already been out of prison for years.
So do you have an idea where he left jail, where he moved to? Like where
Yes, he did. He lived with us for a while. I was little.
Really?
Yeah. When we lived in before we moved to the house on Hancock Street, we lived in Brooklyn on a different street. We lived in this little apartment. My mom had 9 kids, and
Wow.
over the landlord who hated our guts because she was always banging on the ceiling
Well,
with the broom.
there's so many kids.
I know.
mean,
And he
my
did
God.
live with us for a while, but my mom said that he drank. He started drinking and he didn't like the noise, and he used to complain about us, you know, playing and making noise. And my mother and father said, you know, you can't live here. We're not going to live like this.
Right.
And he left, and he went and he lived with his sister Mamie for a while. So
Wow.
you know, I have really no memories of him, just vague little flashes.
Right.
You know, but and I used to find the story's fascinating. It really is.
It is, but it's
every time
tragic.
I look,
Tragic, yeah.
well, every time I look at that face, I said, what a sad, sad life this man had.
Yeah.
He didn't raise his own children.
Wow.
Well, part of the story is very sweet because when my mom and
That's
dad
just water through the pipes.
Yeah.
That's what we're hearing.
Okay.
when my mom and dad were getting married, what my mom wanted for her honeymoon, she asked my dad if they could go to Lake Champlain,
Oh.
which is because she wanted to visit her father in prison. And
Wow.
that's what they did on the honeymoon. They did more than that.
Right.
But my grandfather
10
was
times.
yeah. My grandfather was a musician.
Made me spit.
And he was a chauffeur, that's how he made money, but he was also a musician. And according to the story my mom told, that he was like the head of the band in prison, the prison band,
Oh,
band
nice.
leader.
Wow.
And they performed a song. I don't know what the song is. Everybody's gone. Nobody told us anything.
Yeah.
And I know that he wrote a song, he composed a song, and it might have been that. And it had something to do with a rainbow, that's all I know. It wasn't somewhere over
Well,
the
no,
rainbow,
no,
or
no.
be rich.
Yeah, right. Wow.
But
Those are good secrets.
yeah, yeah. I know, it's just, so sad that,
Yeah.
all those years ago, like kids weren't protected, especially if you
No.
were poor,
Yeah.
and like you went into these horrible, I'm sure those places were horrible, or they wouldn't
yeah.
be running away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the miracle of it is that he knew how to read and write,
Okay.
and
that is a miracle.
yeah, I know. He wasn't like illiterate, and
Right.
and even one of the judges in one of the articles, they said how smart he was, and they tried to help him. But when they were being convicted of this last crime, there was an article about it in the paper that he demanded of the judge because his brother Frank, they said, was on his 4th offense. So he was going in for life. And they said, was only on his 2nd offense. And he got up and said, oh no, I'm on the 4th offense too. You either give me life or give me nothing because I'm going with him. They wanted to stay together
Wow.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
because that was the only,
That's the only
that's who he had.
That's family.
You know,
that was
yeah.
his only family.
I know. And they were just in and out of trouble and in jail and
So you started finding research. How long ago did you research?
we started doing it in the 90s.
In the
Yeah,
90s. So let me ask you something, because with the whole family secrets. What defined you prior to knowing this information about the family as compared to afterward, now? Like
Oh,
what?
It really didn't affect the way I thought of my family. I mean, at first I just thought, oh my God, this is so interesting.
Yeah,
You know, it was almost like, oh, my grandfather was in Dannemora State Prison, maximum security for 23 or 25 years.
right.
No, it really didn't, but it gave me some insight into how some people had to live.
Mhm.
And then I thought, how did my mom end up so good? This man chose to go to prison longer, and the judge did accommodate him. They found
Right,
it. He
okay.
said he confessed to another crime, so that they would do that.
Wow.
He had 2 children and a wife.
Yeah.
Wow.
He had 2 kids, my mom and my Aunt Ruthie,
Yeah.
and my poor grandma.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That's sad.
It's very
It's very
sad.
tragic.
It's very, very tragic, and you know, and he worked before he got into all the big trouble. He was a chauffeur for a very wealthy woman that lived up in Bell something. It was like Westchester, and she really liked him, and he was her chauffeur. And she offered him to move there. They had a cottage on it, and to bring his children and my grandmother. And my grandmother wouldn't do it. She said, "I'm not leaving.
Oh
I'm not."
my
She
gosh.
liked it on Gates Avenue in Brooklyn, you know,
Wow.
and she refused to do it. And that could have been something that changed his life.
Yeah.
You know, that
Yeah.
his life could have gone in a whole other direction. Maybe not, because he'd
Right,
been in
right.
trouble since he was
Right.
8 years old. But you know,
So do you recommend people going on to Ancestry.com and then what's it called, newspaper?
newspapers.com.
I mean, it's because it's funny because when you're talking, like, there's times now that I'm older, I keep thinking, I wish I would ask my parents that. I wish,
You
You know?
Yeah.
It's
I know.
and and I think I wonder if but my kids don't always ask me about my history either, because you're so into your life as I
Mhm.
was
I
as
know.
and like, oh, look at your grandkids, my kids, and you don't think of them as having something before you.
Yeah, exactly. You don't think of them not being there to answer your questions.
Yeah.
And that's the crux of it, I think.
Yeah.
Like my sister-in-law is, I go out and visit Maureen pretty much every week.
Right.
And I said, why didn't Dad tell us this? Who the heck cares if we were, Polish? I didn't care.
Right.
I'm 14% Polish. I said, I'll wear it. I don't care.
Yeah.
Well, we have an audience member who's
That's right.
100% Polish.
Yeah, do your DNA. You'll find out what you really are. I'm a lot more things than I
Yeah.
thought. I'm
So
Scottish
many
and
things
Irish
to be
and
proud
Polish
of.
and
Chopin and
Yeah.
astronomers.
yeah,
People don't
Absolutely.
know Polish history.
yeah.
Absolutely.
It's I know. It's just I think that my dad wanted to, but it was a lot of explaining to do, I guess. And since he had never told my mom,
After a while, it's like.
yeah, it's like
what-
what's the point right now?
Well, that's what I feel like a lot of people I'm finding in the secrets that I know about. There's a lot of kind of like, well, we've gone this far. What's the point of it
Yeah.
now? It's not going to change anything. Who cares? But
Yeah.
then nobody realizes
Yeah.
that people do care. They will be.
Yeah,
Some
there's something
about-
people that may not even be alive now will be interested
Yeah.
on it later on.
Yeah.
A lot of it's poverty driven because Polish people went to Ireland for work. And
Well,
they
I'm
were
gonna.
escaping
I'll
poverty.
tell you why we think it happened in my father's family. Besides the fact Cecilia Milanowski said because your grandmother was a bitch, she didn't want a Polish name. But also in that town, Mahanoy City, was half Polish, half Irish. The Irish did better because the Polish were the newer immigrants, and the Irish got the jobs. It's a mining town, so they used to work in the mines. So did the Polacks, but the Irish, it was better to be Irish. I don't know that for a fact, but that's what we were saying. Probably, that was the reason too. So, and I don't know. It's just a shame, that we didn't know. There was a whole part of my family that I never know. I had cousins that are still there, and
Well, did you have anything you wanted to share? I see we got how many more minutes about?
I could pause. Let me pause.
All right, sure.
Oh,
No
sure.
pause.
We're gonna
Let's see
pause.
if the dirt,
Are you
Judy.
gonna share?
I have nothing.
She has no dirt.
I really don't
Are
have
you
anything.
serious?
I really am. I really have
my
nothing to
gosh.
share that I could.
Okay, we're back.
You are.
We are. Okay, so
Family secrets were,
family secrets. It's
He's got some very interesting story, and it's almost like a novel.
there's a lot to go there.
And it's
Yeah.
it's emotional,
Mm-hmm.
and like you said, you really,
But-
you care about these people.
But in the telling, you also have to be respectful as well, because like what you shared, they're deceased, and I made the conscious decision when I was thinking about this. I said, God, I could spill. Oh my God, on both sides of the family, there's just so much there. I said, but out of respect for the living, not going. I'm not going to go there. But I think what I might start it off with is on my dad's side of the family. Now my dad had, just like my mom, they come from large siblings. My dad is one of 7 siblings. My mom is one of 9. Okay, and something else they both had in common is that both of their parents were divorced and remarried. So that each one of their mothers had 2 husbands. And so, which I thought was interesting back then. I don't know how common it was, but so. They had step siblings, but they were all raised together for the most part. Not always on my mom's side, but like together as siblings. And so, my dad's mother, who I knew more, and she actually ended up living near us when we were growing up. Her name was Dorothy, and she was born in 1919, and she had 3 children with her first husband. She had a boy and 2 girls. And all that we knew about the first husband was that he wasn't very nice. He was not a good man, whatever. You could read between the lines, I guess, and then, but his last name was Chuzo. And then she got remarried and had, more children. She had 1, 2. My dad was the first child of that second marriage, had another brother soon after him, and then had 2 other brothers after that. So 4 sons with the second husband. So, she died a few months before I got married. So that was in 2005. And she died in April of 2005, and I got married in October. So it's about 6 months. So at the end, and her, my dad's father had already died a few years before then. So, both of his parents were dead. And then she always used to tell me growing up that she was a gypsy. I'd be like, I'm a gypsy. We're a gypsy. We moved around a lot. And I didn't know what that was. I just pictured gypsy like these, carts with horses and beads.
Werewolves and.
She always had these beads, going between doorways, seeing like a fortune teller. She had all of that, and her maiden name was McFarlane. And I was told that she was Scottish, too, but whatever. So, they clearing out the house and everything, and then they end up finding, documents, as they're the siblings clearing the house. And one of those documents was her marriage certificate to her second husband, my dad's father. And they got married in San Francisco, which they didn't know that. They've always loved San Francisco. We used to go there a lot. And they got married in 1979. Which was
Your grandmother got married in
to
1979?
her second husband in 1979. That was the big shocker.
Wait a minute. And your dad?
Was born in 1946 or 7, like right around there.
So she was like 49 years old? 59 years old when she had a baby?
No, this big secret is she never divorced the first husband. And when she shacked up with her second husband, my dad's father, she took his name,
But she
said they were married, lived as married, but they didn't get married until 1979. And with the marriage certificate was the obituary from the first husband saying that he had died.
Wow.
So
my
now they
God.
could get legally married.
Oh.
So then I turned to my dad and
She
said,
was
"You're a
bigamous.
bastard." I go, "You're a bastard."
And what did he say to them?
Well, he doesn't like cursing. But technically, then I was
It's not
thinking about
technically
it.
a curse.
Right, and
Yeah,
technically,
that's
I don't
true.
think he was a bastard because she was legally married. I said, your last name should be Tuzo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Because,
he
yeah.
is a bastard because his father isn't really his father.
But under laws, especially I think at the time,
Yeah.
if you're born into wedlock,
Yeah.
whoever it is.
Yeah, well,
is-
yeah, because people used to pretend sometimes a kind man would marry a woman because she was
Right,
pregnant.
she was
with
pregnant,
yes,
right, and so that- so
the
he
child wouldn't be a
And
bastard.
so the story that we were able to piece together and talking to, because her brother was still alive and he's now passed, and we were close with him, was that her first husband was abusive, and she would run from him and move, and she changed her and on the subsequent birth certificates for the other siblings, some of them had different maiden names on them, so she would change her maiden, but she was in hiding from him.
Right, okay.
So there is kind of like
Yeah.
a tragic undertone about
Yeah,
it.
it is.
But then she learned he had then died, and then was free and clear to go get married. So 1979 was the year my sister was born.
Oh, that's so funny.
So that was kind
Yeah.
of one secret. But in doing Ancestry.com, you learn all of these things. But she was young when she got married. As a lot of them, were back then.
Mhm.
But when I was finding out things about where she lived, she lived in the apartment, in the census, you could see, like
Yes,
you read the
yes,
apartment buildings. I would look, oh, there she is. On a few houses down on the same block was the name of her first husband.
Oh, okay.
So that's you could figure out how she met him,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
and so forth, and so.
Yeah.
That was one of the second one. I've been fascinated with my Scottish history, and I always wanted to know where it came from in Scotland. I still haven't been able to pinpoint it down. Did find out we had Irish in there, and I was trying to figure out how that played in. But my dad also, with his grandmother, my grandmother's mother, he was close with her. I think there's a pattern repeating it too, because she also had two husbands. And my dad was raised to know her second husband. In fact, he's named Andy, or Andrew, but everybody calls him Andy after the second husband, who's not his grandfather, and because apparently his name was Andy, but I found out through the census his real name wasn't, it was Hans. But, I think his last name was Anderson, so they called him Andy, I guess, So, but I had asked my dad, I go, so where is the McFarlane? Like, so you never knew your biological grandmother? He goes, no, he had died, No.
Yeah.
He too didn't die,
Oh
and
my God. Another one who didn't.
another one, and I found him living in some house years, to an old age, and so he never
Wow.
knew. He could have met him, he could have,
Yeah.
but he died alone, and it's interesting, but yet they claim widower on each of their,
Oh, yeah.
on each of their censuses, but they weren't widowers.
Yeah.
They just went their ways,
Yeah.
and so forth, so.
Yeah, I know on a couple of the census that my grandmother, like we would look at the census and then we would say, oh, she put that my grandfather was there, but it was when he was in prison. So I guess it was like that shame of that too.
Right,
I don't
right.
know.
Right.
And
you know.
it's crazy because as the both of you are talking, I'm thinking, you could never get away with that now with the internet.
Yeah.
You're right. It's because it's so. I
Yeah.
don't know. I think you could to some extent, but I don't know.
Yeah, all that information is out there. People could find it
Right.
anywhere, So
It's Do you guys have family secrets? I mean, it's it's a secret. As you're talking, because I know that I'm not really contributing to this conversation very much, but I have a family question. Like I always wondered about a cousin of mine. because where I lived, you could see my grandparents' house across the field, and my cousin, he was living with my grandparents. It was my aunt, my father's sister's son, and he was living with them, and they were, you know, elderly people, but they, you know, they had a farm, whatever. They were, I think, elderly now, and they probably were younger than I am now.
Yeah.
But I was like, why is he? Because he had siblings, and his parents would come sometimes visit, and he'd get to see his siblings. But my grandparents were raising him, and I was like, it wasn't until I got older that I started thinking, there's something wrong with this picture. Like, why, you know, like, and I get the image like on Christmas morning of him walking across the field in the snow, because it sounds dramatic. It was 6 feet tall, but it was a lot of snow, going to help on the farm to milk the cows, and then going back to my grandparents' house, or just my grandparents and him, and he'd get socks or something. Whereas my siblings and I, you know, we couldn't wait for Dad to get into the house so we could open our gifts, and it was just all like exciting and family. And it wasn't until I was older that I got angry, because I was just like, somebody should have stepped in and included him with us. And
Well,
I
why
didn't.
was he being raised by your grandparents?
I don't
You don't know?
The only answer I was told is that my grandfather needed help on the farm, but his brother had told me, and I'm not even going to reveal what he
Who,
had
your-
said.
Whose brother? Your father's brother?
No, my cousin,
Yeah.
my cousin's brother, the sibling
Of the little boy.
of the boy.
Okay.
He told me something that he suspected, but I won't. It's, again, I'm not going to reveal it. But it was just like, oh, that's interesting. But it's I don't know. It was like one of those family things that you just, everybody's dead now.
Yeah.
So I
yeah.
can't get answers. And I did ask my mother point blank, who did Reggie belong to? Whose child was he really? And she goes, oh, you know, like she kind of like,
like your bird call.
my bird call. Yeah, I did a bird call earlier. It was really bad. But no, I don't know if they all went to their graves taking the secret with them, or maybe I was just looking into it. Maybe he was just living with my grandparents to help
Probably
on the
not.
farm. Yeah, it just
Probably not.
it always
He
bothered me.
could have come every day and worked on the farm and then gone home to wherever.
No, you couldn't. He lived in Messina. There was
Oh,
a Messina. It was like an
okay.
hour. You know,
There's
it
no
was-
sidewalks there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
there were
know.
no
I
signs.
know.
But yeah, no, that, so, you know, there are family secrets that we don't know the answers to, and there's family secrets that you can research,
Yeah.
and the two of you, it's pretty
Yeah.
amazing.
Oh yeah, there's so and thanks to ancestry too. I mean,
Oh, God,
you know,
I love
on my mother's
ancestry.
side of the family, just real quick. This is a quick story, but it's, you know, her mother, who's deceased, is you know, was not very accurate with the birth information as far as dates or anything, and so a lot of her siblings, her kids, including my mother, thought they were younger than they really were, you
Oh,
know.
wow.
And some of them probably still insist to this day that they are that age, you know. But I mean, going to Ancestry.com, you can see the actual birth, you know,
Right,
when
right.
these children were born, and it's like, you know,
Wow.
I remember celebrating my mom's 60th years ago, and it turned out it wasn't her 60th.
really?
Yeah, and I was like, oh, okay, well, here we are.
That's funny.
But so now
Yeah.
we know, and but yeah, like things
Yeah.
were a lot looser then.
Yeah.
You know, but now you can actually find that.
Yeah.
Find it out.
Yeah.
It's really
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, my mom had another sister, my Aunt Dottie. And so she had two sisters, and a brother. The brother died when he was 3 years old of diphtheria. His name was Charles. And then she had, she was the oldest, then my Aunt Ruthie, and then my Aunt Dottie was the youngest. And my Aunt Dottie was, as the name would indicate, she was just full of fun and joy, and she was like everybody, all about favorite aunt. She made everybody laugh. She was a crazy redhead. And I found out, like when I must have been in my 20s or 30s, that when I was a kid and my grandfather was in prison, which I didn't know, you know, well actually then he was dead by then anyway, he died in 1958. We used to get visited from, I just thought he was a relative, his name was Red. And it turns out that Red was a very close friend to my grandfather. Actually, I'm pretty sure he was involved in one of the crimes and he got away with it. And he used to come and visit with my mom and, you know, and my grandmother. And it turns out that Red was my Aunt Dottie's father.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Aunt Dottie was born while he was in prison.
Wow.
I didn't know that, you know, so.
That's, yeah, crazy.
You're blushing.
Oh my goodness, Grandma, really?
Yeah, it's,
Yeah, so anyway. But anyway, some sadness, you find some sad stories, but it is very interesting,
Yeah.
you know.
Some saucy ones too, but I can't, you know, we'll have to wait a few more years to,
right,
to
right.
say those.
But thank you for watching, if you're still with us, you know, this
Yes.
family secrets, you know, I mean, does it get your wheels turning? Are you going
Yeah.
to go look on Ancestry.com? I think I want to. Maybe I don't want to,
Mhm.
but,
Well,
You
what are
have
we?
to subscribe to it.
yes, yeah.
What are we going to talk about next podcast? Give
The
a little
next
preview.
podcast, we're gonna actually, cause it's just days before the election, so we're gonna talk politics.
Oh boy.
Alright,
Finally, I know everybody's probably politicked out. But
see you then.
We'll see.
Thank you. Peggy's gonna turn off the, camera right now.
I am.
Okay.
Are you ready?
You saw her walk in there.
I know.
Bye.
Bye.